The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Brandon Van Hoff from the American Association for the Advancement of Science. We're going to do a webinar today to talk a little bit more about the GIST TechEye competition. We'll wait a few more seconds for everybody else to join in. If there's any problem, please let me know. There should be a question tab on your screen that if you have any questions during the presentation, please let me know and I can answer them at any point in time. If you're watching this live, you should be able to see an image of myself talking about it. I'm doing it solo today, but hopefully in future webinars we'll have additional people involved as we go through the competition. This is going to be probably the last webinar for the application phase, but going through other phases we'll have other webinars going on. If you're watching this recorded, then you don't get to see my face, but you will get to hear my voice and see the images of the presentation as I go along. This is going to be kind of a review of some of the previous items we discussed in previous webinars. If you want to see more of those webinars, please go to gistnetwork.org, TechEye, and you should be able to find recordings of those. One we spoke just about the competition in general, and then the other one we talked about how to make a promotional video. We're going to discuss some of those items as we go through this presentation, but just to let you know, if you want any in-depth knowledge on those points, feel free to go back to those recordings. And if you're, additionally, if you have to leave this broadcast early, this will be recorded as well, or is being recorded, and will be posted for your viewing at any time you want on YouTube. And that link will be provided on the GIST TechEye, or excuse me, the gistnetwork.org site. And if you want, you can send me an email and I can send you the link to it directly. So let's start moving on to the final webinar for this time, the final advice and tips from our team. This includes advice from me, advice from our newest member, Leslie, as well as advice from previous TechEye team members who have worked on it in the past, and so we'll just go over some of those tips. Here are the kind of items we're going to go over. We're going to go over the timeline for the competition once again. We're going to go through the application specifics to make sure we hit home all the important parts that you need to cover in your application. I'll give you final advice, and then we'll have a question and answer. I want to leave as much time as possible for that final advice and the question and answer, because a lot of these details have been covered in previous webinars. But again, if you have any question about any part of what I discussed, please send a question in the question box or send me an email, and the email will appear at the end of the presentation. So this is kind of what we're going to go over, and I'll start off with the timeline. And I have great news. The great thing is I have on this PowerPoint or this presentation that January 15th is the deadline, and I'm pleased to say with the new year we've moved the deadline to January 22nd. That gives you an extra week to put all the details into your application, make a good video if you need to. So I'm pleased to say that we'll have extra time for you to complete your application. So I think this is really great. I got a question about audio. Please let me know if you get audio. I'll respond to everybody and make sure. Sorry, anyone else? Okay. And if there is a problem with the audio, you should, well, if you can't hear me, then you should know that, and you should be able to let me know. Moving forward, sorry. As far as the timeline is concerned, there is, as I said, oh, great, we got someone who can hear me at least. So as I said, the application now has a new deadline of the 22nd, and we're pleased about that. That should give you some extra time. A lot of people, for some people, they were out during the holidays, at least here in the US, I know that's the case, and so we wanted to give people a little bit extra time to finish their applications. The other aspects of the other parts of the timeline are to be determined. That's because the end goal, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and the TechEye Finals, don't have a date yet set. They will likely happen this year in 2016, but because we don't know the exact timing, the other parts of the competition are a little bit in flux. The review portion, though, should happen at the end of once the application due date arrives. So we'll start reviewing, and that was roughly a month. So just to give you an idea, if the 22nd is our due date, then we'll have a month. So probably around the beginning of March, maybe we will be finishing the review at that point in time. But as I said, it's kind of in flux because we don't know what the when the Global Entrepreneurship Summit will be, and so that is kind of what's playing into our timeline here. Okay, now for the application specifics. These are just, there's a first section when you go onto your application where you need to fill out personal details. This is just like your name, your citizenship, your email address. You want to make sure that you double check and make sure all that information is correct. For example, that email address, that's the email address I'm going to use. If you're selected as a semifinalist, I'm going to use that email. So make sure that that's the correct email and that it is a proper email and that it works, just so that when we decide who the semifinalists are, that I can email you and don't have a problem. Country of citizenship, again, that's fairly standard. Just make sure you have your country's citizenship labeled correctly. Your company name and your idea name, make sure that's correct as well. So just make sure that first portion where you're entering information about yourself and your idea, that is all correct and up to date. As far as the second portion is the short summary, excuse me. It should be no more than 100 words. It must be written in English, and keep it to 2 sentences or shorter. What this is going to be used is that when we go on to the voting phase, when the applications go on to the semifinal round, that short summary is going to be below your video. So it'll give a person who is unfamiliar with what you're talking about a quick overview of the topic, and then can have an understanding when they watch the video. We're going to work it so that the executive summary, which I'll explain later a bit more, can be viewed if people want to learn more information, but this is really a short, quick overview of what you're doing and what the idea is. Again, okay, this is the executive summary. So this should be no more than 750 words. It should be focusing more on the scientific aspects and the technological aspects of your idea and startup. Again, it must be written in English. A lot of people have written in and asked about concerns about protecting their idea. This is something that we are concerned about as well, and we try our best to protect your ideas. It is an open public competition, which makes it a little bit difficult, but in terms of how to protect yourself from any potential stealing of ideas, we suggest that you don't divulge any business confidential material in that executive summary. If be kind of vague about that, and we can work with you if you have any questions about protecting your idea going forward. The idea is just, go over what your idea is and try to talk about the science behind it, but we don't want you to give away all the details. Don't tell us the formulas of how you create something. Mainly focus on the broader scientific aspects. It's only 750 words, so be understanding that you can't go too in depth in that amount of time, in that word length. The video. I'll again point back to a webinar we did previously where we discussed how to do a promotional video. It should be 90 seconds maximum. I've been getting some questions over, can it be less than 90 seconds? Yes, it can be less than 90 seconds. That's fine, but just make sure that you go over all the important information that you need to in that video. And I'll talk on the next slide a little bit about what are some of the aspects that you should be touching on in that video. It must be in English or have English subtitles. So we just need, because the reviewers are going to be we're going to present this in English to them, they need to have, there are some that won't speak different languages, so we need to make sure that everybody's on a level playing field in terms of what the reviewers can view, and so that's why it needs to be in English. We had a question about, well, I'm deaf, can I do sign language? That's perfectly fine. For that, you can also have you can either have subtitles, or you can have someone speak over you as you sign. And that's another option. If you're not very confident in your English abilities and you feel like a friend of yours could better describe in English your idea, then go ahead and have them do the voiceover. That's perfectly fine. It's not an issue. Some of the advice we give you is make sure you're talking about the purpose. What is the purpose of the idea or the startup? To try to be creative, try to catch us with some interesting discussion or interesting graphics that will make us want to know more about the idea. And again, this is actually the third point is people, graphics, animation, make us interested in what you're talking about and your idea and your startup. And I think this moves great onto the next slide. Well, how do I make a promotional video? Because this is often a question we get. We just stress that you should use what technology you have available. If you have a laptop, then you can use your webcam through your laptop, or if you just have a webcam for your PC, you can use that as well. Cell phone videos. We always get cell phone videos for the video portion of the competition, and it's perfectly fine. We've had finalists go on, and we've had people who've done cell phone videos and gone on to win prizes at the final competition. As long as it's just you talking about what your idea is, explaining it, and going over the important points of your idea and in that video, that's what we're really concentrating on. So cameras, video cameras, and then another option is software. Powtoons is an option. It's an online software. You have to pay for it, so we don't advise you, if you don't have the funds, don't go and pay for it. But there are other options that are free. And another great option is to use PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, you can turn your presentation into a video. You can actually voice over the video as well, record it, and then submit that online. It's not an issue. I've done it before in the past, and if you have any questions about making a video through PowerPoint, feel free to send us an email and we can answer those questions. But just don't view, and I stress this a lot, and I've done it in the webinar for the video, don't view the video as an impediment to you getting to applying for the competition. It can be overcome. There's no big obstacle in this, and we're happy to work with you in order to figure out how best to solve the issue of making a video. All right, this is going, again, more in depth into the video portion of the application. We stress that you tell us a little bit about yourself, be brief and short, and tell us a brief introduction, but focus more on the second and the third points of this PowerPoint, the problem and the solution. So tell us of the problem. If I didn't know there was a problem about getting drinking water to a certain area of a particular country, I might ask, well, why do we need this water solution? I need to know that there's an issue that needs to be solved. And then focus on, well, how are you going to solve that? And again, I stress this in the video webinar that we did, and I'll stress it again. You should be focusing on those 2 points, the problem and the solution, in the video, and they should take the most amount of time of your video. Again, the fourth point, close, leave us with a memorable mark, and so that we know, we can remember who you are, we can remember your idea, we can remember why it's a good idea. And the important thing about the video, again, is that it's going to be used in the voting portion of the competition. So you need to be mindful of, well, is this going to encourage people to vote for me? Am I compelling enough that people say, hey, yeah, that is a problem. Hey, yeah, I can solve this problem by helping this person move on to the finals. And so just keep that in mind when you're putting together your video. Supporting documents. This is an option that you can add to supporting documents to your application. They must be in English just like the rest of the application. And again, they are supporting your executive summary and your other portions of your application. The expert panel or the reviewers are not required to review this aspect, the supporting document of the applications. So the idea behind this is if you have something and that you think, well, they might have questions about this. Even though I've sort of described what's going on, they might have further questions. Here's a document in case they have these further questions. And so the idea is that a reviewer might say, well, I wonder exactly how they're doing this or what their market, they say they have some market, they've done market research and it's this and that, but I would like to know more. I wonder if they have more information. And then that supporting document can help bolster that. But again, it is separate from the executive summary. Do not view it as, do not put important details of your application in that executive or in that in those supporting documents, because there's a chance that if a reviewer thinks, oh, this is fine, or oh, this is not fine and I'm not interested in learning any more information, they might not review that supporting document. So again, important details in the executive summary. Supporting documents could support things that you've had in there, but they should not be the important points that you want to get across in your application. We're giving you some examples, so statistics, such as market research if you've done any, spreadsheets, diagrams, charts, graphics, photos, team member details. This is what you should be putting in the supporting documents should you want to add any to your application. Okay, so here are some of the advice that we give you. Again, if I rush through any of the things that I've discussed prior, that's because we talked about them earlier, but I'm happy to answer any questions about those aspects. So the first thing we say is to take the risk and apply. In my opinion, it's not much of a risk. All you have to do is fill out a bit of information, fill out a short executive summary, a short summary, and then do a quick video on your idea. It is not that risky. And so if you're debating, well, should I apply, should I not? Take the short amount of time it takes to apply to this competition and do it. You know, it reminds me of a finalist from last year who I sent information about an upcoming competition that was unrelated. She asked me, well, do you think my idea really fits into this competition? And I told her, I said, don't worry. You don't let yourself be the determining factor of whether you should apply or not. Go ahead and apply and let the competition people decide whether you are. And so let us decide. If you're in any doubt, I'd say go ahead and apply. It's no harm if you apply and for some reason you're not qualified or you're not able, although that's a rarity that you wouldn't be qualified or the idea wouldn't be valid. But go ahead and apply. It's really an important thing to do. When you're doing your applications, remember to be yourself and think creatively. This goes both for the executive summary and for the video, but especially for the video. Try to show who you are. Try to make us interested in what your idea is, so that we will want to invest time, and down the road, investors who might be at the finals will want to invest money into your idea and start. Be sure to tell us your idea and sell us on your idea and product. This is sort of what I was discussing earlier, where tell us, what is that problem? Make us feel like we need to solve that problem, and then say, well, hey, I've got the solution. Here it is. That is really what is important in this competition. It's really that hook of, well, there's this issue. It needs to be solved, and I've got the solution. So be sure to sell us on your idea and product. this again, I mentioned this earlier, but don't worry about the video quality, or yeah, the quality. It's what is in the video that is the most important. It's what you discuss. It's those 4 points I discussed earlier: introducing yourself, going over the problem, going over your solution, and leaving us with a lasting mark. The quality is not as important in terms of whether you're doing a cell phone video or a, you know, a digitally enhanced, you know, presentation of some sort that is really 5 stars. It really doesn't matter. What we're more concerned with is the content inside that video. Again, as I said earlier, remember to double and triple check all your information, that it's correct, especially that email. Again, if you make it onto the semifinals and I have an incorrect email address, there's nothing I can do. I have to go back. I have to go to the next person who might be who has a valid email address. So be sure to make sure that you have that email address correct and up to date, and that you're checking it, and it works. Some of the things what we say that you should not do is exceed the maximum length of the different parts of the application. So 100 words for the short summary, 750 words for the executive summary, and 90 seconds for the promotional video. The promotional video is, again, it can be shorter than 90 seconds, but it's one of these things where we deal with each year where people run over in that 90 seconds. And what I can tell you is that the reviewers only are required to view 90 seconds of that video. So if your video goes over 5 minutes long and you don't get into the important details until minute 3, then the reviewer will not even see that. They'll turn it off and they'll move on to the next application, and they'll probably score you lower because they did not see the problem, the solution that you're proposing. So be sure that it's under 90 seconds, because the other option is that I cut it. And if I cut it, I just wait 90 seconds and cut it off at that point in time. And so, you know, that's, you don't want me editing your video. You should be editing your video and making sure that that 90 seconds contains all the information that not only the reviewer needs to know, but if it goes on to the semifinals, all the information that the general public should know about your idea and be compelled to vote for it. Don't give up. If you can upload your documents, please send them to us. We'll try to work with you. The important thing is to create an application, and we've done this before for people who cannot upload their video. Sometimes there are issues with that. That's not an issue. We can, if you send us either a link to the video or send us the video, we can post it for you. We can go into your application and add it if that's necessary, if you need that to happen. It's not a problem. So don't let problems with the application software or anything like that hinder you from applying. We'll work with you to make sure that you can apply. So we want to make sure your ideas are heard and your startups are known about. So we want you to be participating in this competition, and we'll work with you to make sure that you can. Finally, don't forget to hit submit. I've always told this whenever I'm doing an application for anything, remember to hit submit at the end so that you know that it's that it is in and we have it. So don't forget to hit submit. Important details. Next step for you is to make sure to apply, of course. I've got the application website listed above on this PowerPoint. If you have questions, feel free to email us. That's our email address. And so we're happy. I'm here all the time answering questions, happy to do it, along with other people on the team. Remember to participate in the JISC Network discussion boards, and I encourage you to join JISC Network in order to participate in this competition. It's really a great opportunity. JISC Network, and I don't think I've stressed this in previous webinars, is sort of a connection for you to connect with other entrepreneurs and as well as mentors who can help you. They have a lot of great opportunities. They have these Tech Connects, which are basically which are kind of along the lines of these webinars, but much more focused on business aspects and how to do a business model and so forth like that. So I highly recommend you going on to JISC Network and participating in some of those Tech Connects. And you can also see some of the other aspects the GIST community. There's also news that's posted about entrepreneurship. That's it's another great opportunity for you to, and a great reason to join. Be sure to spread the word. It's never too early. If you think you have an idea and you think you're going to go on to the semifinals, if people know about the competition at this stage in the at this stage where you're saying to, you know, maybe media is saying, hey, I'm applying to this competition. If you want to follow me along the journey, it's a great opportunity to start the process of getting votes for hopefully if you make it onto the semifinals. And I suggest as well joining the Facebook page or liking the Facebook page for GIST Network. It's another great opportunity to get updated news on what's going on with the competition. For example, the fact that we changed the deadline to the 22nd should be up there soon, and along with a lot of other information. Again, the webinars should be available, the recording of this. So if you came late to this webinar and you're just tuning in, I'll stress again, these webinars will be recorded and will be posted on YouTube. Their links will be posted on to gistnetwork.org. And so if you ever want to go back and listen to this and see this presentation again, feel free. Deadline, again, it's a new deadline of the 22nd. We've just changed it for the new year to give you all more time. We understand that it's been a busy end of the year, so we wanted to make sure that everybody is able to go. So that deadline of the 15th is actually wrong. It's actually the 22nd of January. And so we're happy about that. All right, so this is question time, but I'm going to go back to this slide so that you can write it down, any of the important information such as the website or the Facebook. So we have some questions, and let me go through them, and feel free to add in some more if you have any. So let's see. So it looks like there was some problems with the audio, but we'll see. Hopefully you heard. So let's see. The question is, can we share the PowerPoint presentation after this? Well, as I said, it will be recorded. And so if you want to go back and watch this all the way through, feel free to do that. It's not a problem, so that instead of me sending you the presentation, you can just go ahead and watch the video online. If you're interested in the presentation, send me an email at thetecheye@gistnetwork.org, and I can see what I can do. Okay, wanted to know if there's any specific captions that we consider putting into executive summary together. So I think the question, this is from Joseph. I'm just kind of, I'm assuming that the question is, what are some of the specific details of what should go into the executive summary? I believe we covered this a little in the first webinar, but there are some judging criteria in the, as far as what the experts will be looking over, and let me just read them. This is all from the program announcement, so a bit in-depth information is in there should you want it. So feel free to go on to the gistnetwork.org, and this is all laid out along with the percentage of how much a reviewer will be looking at a specific detail. So the important points to hit on the evaluate or on your in your executive summary is the significance. So what is the problem? What's the significance of the problem addressed? And then you want to also address the technical merit. That's the second thing you want to, the scientific, excuse me, and technical merit. So that's the second thing you want to address in there. So you want to talk a bit about the innovation there and your technical approach. The third thing you want to touch on in your executive summary is the commercial potential and the impact for a GIST country or emerging economy that you're in. So just go over your business strategy, who's in your team, and discuss that in that portion of the executive summary. And then, and actually, those are the three major points that you should address in your executive summary. there's a fourth point, but that's related to the video and making sure that your video is engaging and interesting and you discuss all the important points. Again, this is all, and I'll hold it up, it's all in the program announcement where there's a kind of a table where all the information, and it breaks it down by startup and idea stage, so you know exactly, depending upon which stage you're in, what you should be concentrating on. So I'd go on to the GISTnetwork.org website and look for the program announcement at in the Tech Guide pages to get a better understanding of all the important points you should be addressing in your executive summary. And then anything you have questions about as well, what the reviewers will be looking for in the video portion as well. So the question is, 30 finalists will be decided by how many views, and will you have our videos on YouTube, from Andre. So what will happen in the semifinal round of the competition, we will post it actually won't be on YouTube, it will be on GIST Network. It'll be a website where people can go through and view the different videos and read the short summaries and then vote accordingly. How many views so it won't be put on YouTube. You're welcome to put your video on YouTube if you like. You don't necessarily have to for this competition, but the voting portion will actually happen outside of, it won't be happening on YouTube. Now, if you make it onto the finals, we do post our finalist videos onto YouTube at the end for people to reference should they have any interest in learning more about the finalists. So usually when we announce the finalists, we provide a link to where they can see, where people can view videos about, discuss where your videos will appear. So basically, when we send out a press release about who's in the final or who's in the finals, we'll send a link about how they can view the videos for those finalists. How many applications range do you expect this year? Okay, this is a good question. I will be honest and say I have no idea how many applications we are expecting we will get this year. What I can tell you is what we've gotten in the previous year. So last year we got around 790 applications. Those are completed applications that were submitted. So it's quite a large number. We hope to reach that number this year, but again, we have no idea. It's all about how many people apply. So that kind of gives you an idea of previous years, although I don't know. I cannot forecast how many we will get this year. So we hope the same or more, but we'll see. Another question is it likely if we include subtitles under the video to prevent misunderstanding of speech? This is asked as we may have some accents in English pronunciation. So the question is, can we have subtitles even if we're speaking in English because we're concerned that your accent might people might not understand your accent? Yes. In fact, one of our finalists from last year, Tembike, he had a video and he had his video was submitted with subtitles, even though he was speaking in English. But it just was so that he could, I think it was to make sure that people could understand exactly the important points he was going over and to not have any confusion. I could understand Tendike's accent perfectly well, but I think he was just being cautious and making sure. So it's perfectly fine and it's not a problem. I mean, it shows that you care. I think that your message is getting across. So I wouldn't say that it's negative, and I would say that maybe it would be positive in the fact that it's helping more people understand your idea. I also think Tendike would probably put subtitles as well because his idea was focused on people who needed hearing aids, and so I think the idea that he had behind that as well is that by having it subtitled, it allows for people who might have a hearing disability to be able to vote and to watch the video, understand what's going on, and vote for it. So I think subtitles, even if you're speaking in English, are a great idea. All right. Can we send in more than one application? No. That's the short answer, is that I know that as entrepreneurs and innovators, a lot of you have multiple ideas that are coming out, and I completely understand you might have several projects in the work, but the issue is that you need to focus on one particular innovation or idea to apply for the competition under. So please limit it to one. Just pick the best one you feel will go the farthest and you feel is the most important, and go for it. I mean, the important thing is that if all of your ideas are of a similar vein, if if you win any prizes at the end, assuming it goes into similar things that you put forward into your business ideas for the application, it should be fine. So really focus in on the idea that you have the best for. Your prize will have to be related to that, if you get it. But really, it can only be one idea, or one startup. We understand you're innovators, you got a lot of ideas, but we really need it to be one. How many times can I apply? You can only apply once, and that's the same thing as far as your idea. You can only have one idea, one startup, and then one idea or one startup, and then apply once. You cannot apply multiple times. We need you to, it's only one per person. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just reading this question. So the question is, as part, as the solving the problem, should it be focused on poor developing countries, or is it okay if my idea is more focused on, actually it's asking if it can focus on developed or highly developed countries. Will that be an issue? So as the competition really wants you to make sure that you're including, when you're looking into your idea, that your idea and startup kind of touches on and will help your particular GIST country. So keep that in mind when you're applying. That doesn't mean that your idea or startup has to be simply located and only focused on that GIST country. It can have operations in your GIST country, but it can also be global. It can be focused on a number of different countries. And so it needs to have some anchor, if you will, to your GIST country or to a GIST country. In some ways, it has to be helping that GIST country. Now, if you have an idea that maybe is not localized, maybe it's more about an idea that is based on the internet and can be global. If you're working in your GIST country or in a GIST country, and it's helping the people of that country by improving jobs, maybe in other aspects, helping that GIST country, that's an option that you should keep in mind. So I wouldn't limit yourself if you think, oh, it's not really, it might be focused a little on highly developed countries. I would say go ahead and apply. That's not an issue, but just keep in mind that you need to relate it back a little to your GIST country or a GIST country, so that because that's kind of the premise behind the competition, is to make sure that people in GIST countries have an opportunity and can excel in their business idea. Okay. Let's see. Can one organization apply with multiple ideas? Sorry, unfortunately, if you have a team, you should focus on one idea and apply through that. And that's what we would suggest as far as applying for this competition. So really, again, focus on that one idea. Okay, Andre's question, he asked, he's creating an app that might save people money, and that he doesn't know if that would be completely focused on poor countries. If you look, I would say look at the list of GIST countries. I think you might be surprised who's listed in those in that list. I mean, the competition. I sense that you were looking at like this is only for it's focused on very undeveloped countries. But I would like to say, I mean, I want to point out that if you look at the list of countries that are in the GIST eligible country list, it's a variety, and they are variety development. I mean, there are European nations in that list. So I think it, it's more about focusing on those GIST countries rather than whether it's a poor economy or not. So really, I would say look at that list, and then you can probably assess. But I would say that your idea would qualify. It would fit into at least a half a dozen GIST countries that I can think of. And I think I'm not sure where you're watching this from, but I could imagine that that would be uh, that would be sufficient in several of the GIST countries. Wait, okay, please can I know what happens? So Joseph is asking a little bit more about the Moldova. Sorry, just to come back to Andre, I think Moldova is fine. So there's an example. If you think it will work in Moldova, then I think you're fine. You can apply. It's not an issue. Back to Joseph's question, is he wants to know a little bit more about finalists and traveling to Silicon Valley and what that all entails. So if you make it to the final stage, what happens is you receive an all expense paid trip to, I should say, all travel expenses paid trip to Silicon Valley. So no matter where you are, what we do is we'll fly you into Silicon Valley. You don't have to pay for meals or accommodations while you're there. That's something that we take care of. The only thing you have to pay for is if you want to buy gifts to take home. So in terms of cost, it really shouldn't cost you anything for the flights, the accommodations, or your food. So don't worry about that if you're at all concerned. So that's kind of the process. The trip to Silicon Valley, I'll explain a little bit about how the finals work. So you go to the Silicon Valley, which is where the Global Entrepreneurship Summit is happening this year. There'll be 2 days of training in which you'll get really intense training and one-on-one mentor. You'll have one-on-one mentors, and you'll go through and talk about your business idea, talk about who your consumers are, talk about who you should be targeting for future consumers, really questioning your ideas and making sure that they're going to be valid. You'll also get some training in pitching and how to pitch your idea. After those 2 days of training, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit will start, and that will probably take that'll probably last 3 days. And during those 3 days, you'll have an opportunity to attend some of the sessions that are there. There's usually an opening plenary where an important speaker, last year it was President Obama in Kenya. We don't know who's going to be this year, but it probably will be someone really interesting to listen to and to hear what they have to say about entrepreneurship in the global community. After that, we'll have during 2 of the GES days, we'll have a pitching competition. So the first day will be half the finalists, and the second day will be the other half of the finalists. We're still working out the details of how the pitching competition will go, but usually it's between a 3 to 5 minute pitch, and then, pitch, and then judges will ask about 5 minutes of question, and you get to respond to what they say. You usually get to do a presentation in that 3 to 5 minutes. You're welcome to do PowerPoints if you like, but you don't really need to. You can just go up there and pitch your ideas. It's perfectly fine as well. So that's kind of the pitching, what happens for that. And then we will usually have an award ceremony at the end of GES at some point, where we'll give out the prizes. And so that's kind of the schedule that we anticipate for the finalists in terms of the finals. So if you have any questions about that, there's in the program announcement, it kind of lays out what the process is, but you feel free to email me if you have any questions about the finalist stage of it. All right. So Joseph asked about teams, and can teams come to the finals? Unfortunately, no. We can only pay for the finalist, the applicant, who will represent the team. So only one person from a team can come that we can pay for. At this point in time, we don't know how the Global Entrepreneurship Summit will be structured. I know sometimes in previous years, other team members have, on their own expense, come to the finals. Just because we don't know how the summit will be structured, we're not exactly sure if that would even be possible because of security issues or restrictions about who can come into the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. We don't know that information yet. So at this point in time, the only thing I can tell you is that only one person can come, and they're the only ones that we would pay for to fly in and stay for the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and the training for the finals. Yeah, so this is a question that was again, so only another person asked about multiple people coming to the finals. At this point in time, as I said, we only can do one person in terms of paying for their travel, and then in terms of if someone else wants to pay or pay for their own travel to come as well. At this point in time, we don't know the situation for the summit, so we don't know if that's even possible. But if you make it to the finals, I will of course keep you updated on what's going on and let you know about if that is even possible. So, if you're there, if you make it to the finals, we'll let you know. Okay. The question about should we start applying for visas? Would that have enough time? So in terms of visas, we are looking into that right now. We understand that that the visa process to come to the U.S., especially in certain countries, can take a certain amount of time. I mean, I work at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, but this program is through the Department of State. So we're working with our partners at the Department of State to come up with a solution. But at this point in time, it's not necessary to start applying for the visa, mainly because we don't have the details of when the summit would be, and we don't have, and to apply for a visa, you probably need flight information, which you won't have. And so if you make it onto the semifinals and the finals, at any point in that time, if we think that you need to start applying for visas, we'll let you know. It's something that's on our mind, and we are very aware about the complications of getting a visa. And so, so we will let you know what's going on as far as the visa. But at this point in time, it would be too early, and you wouldn't have enough information to apply for visas. So I'd hold off. You should hold off, I should say. So can you have a video alongside your pitch for the 3 to 5 minute pitch? Someone has done this. I know in last year someone did this previously. It depends, I would say, on what the video is of and how the video is structured. I will let you know that you know, we're pitching one person after the next. So it's really, and that technology is out of your hands. You're basically giving it to one of us, and we set it up so that it goes. So there's always a potential for technical malfunction or something like that. Something that wouldn't work out. So just be aware that the more complicated your presentation is, if you go on to the finals, the harder it will be to make sure that that goes off well. So that being said, I don't think a video would be necessarily would be bad. But again, you have to think: is it distracting people from my pitch? Is that people are looking at a video and not paying attention to what you're actually saying in your pitch? That might be an issue. And this is something to be considering when you put together your video for the application. Be mindful of distractions. I mean, we discussed this in the video portion of our video webinar, but if there's a lot of noise going on or a lot of visual stimulus, you want to be careful about that, because you might distract from what you're actually trying to get across, which is your idea and how solving a problem. So please be mindful of that. We can discuss that further when the finals, if you make it onto the finals, of how best to structure your presentation for that. And I should say that we'll do webinars for each phase of the competition. So if you make it to the finals, we'll do a webinar on how to do a good presentation and discuss that, and we can discuss that topic should you make it to the finals. Okay. What is the duration of the finals is the question. I'm not exactly sure what the question is. In terms of days, like I said, it's probably a 2-day training and then 3 days of GES, so that's roughly 5 days. Chances are it's probably going to be more on the order of 7 days, because you got to allow for you to arrive and get settled in before we can start the training. So it's probably roughly around 7 days total around, and that might not even account if you're coming from the farthest reaches far away from Silicon Valley. Travel days will probably be a little bit longer, so we can't know exactly how many days it's going to be that you will be away. But keep in mind, 5 days of GES and training, the Global Entrepreneurship and Training, and then probably I'd say like 2 days on either side, just to make sure that you're probably not leaving the day where GES ends. You're probably leaving the next day in all likelihood. So just to keep that in mind. In terms of the pitching, like I said, there are 30 finalists. It's going to be up to 30 finalists, and each of them will have roughly 5 minutes at the most, and then a 5-minute question and answer. And so that's total of at the most, I should say, 10 minutes up on the stage for each of the finalists. So keep that in mind as far as the final pitching, how long that would go on. And again, we break that up into 2 days. 15 go on one day and 15 go on the other day. And it's broken up according to ideas go on one day and startups go on the next day. So that's how we divide people up. Okay. Joseph asks, do you allow replacements in case of finalists can't make it? It all depends on the situation. Again, we're kind of in flux today, or not today, but this year, because we don't know the final date of the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. To some extent, there will be leeway. In previous years, we've been able to, finalists have said that they're unable to make it and asked if another team member could go in, and usually being able to do that. For this year, it will be a little bit more complicated, because as I was mentioning earlier, and as seems to be on the mind of you all, is that visas can be to the U.S. can take a while to get, and so depending upon the situation, we might be able to swap out. However, if it's a month before the finals and you need to switch out, and it's taking 3 months to get a visa, that might not be possible. So it's possible, but not for sure for everyone. So just to let you know. So that should be clear. Does just play any role in the business of the winner of the competition? Mandatory role. So I think you're asking about should you win any prizes at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in the finals? Will we become will we be invested in your business or anything like that? Will we be telling you what to do with your business? The way we've structured it last year and this year is that these are prizes for you. We're not we're not in the position to monitor and find out exactly what you do with those prizes. The idea, though, behind when you apply is that you're kind of giving and this is all in the program announcement. So if you have any questions, for further information, go to the terms and conditions of the program announcement, and again, that's on the justnetwork.org website. Is that you kind of, by applying, you're saying, I'm going to use, if I get any prizes, I'm going to be devoting these to this business idea that I'm presenting in the application. But we're not in a position to, go and tell you what to do with your business. We ask that you send a report on what you've done with the prizes, and usually that we request that about 6 months afterwards, just so that we can get an idea and let people know how you use these funds. But in terms of managing how you run your business, that's not what we would do. If you're interested in getting help in terms of how to approach a business problem, one of the benefits of being a finalist is that you get 3 months of mentorship, and we'll connect you at the finals with mentors that you can follow up with. And if you have a business situation where you're like, I need help developing this, you can go. You can email them, you can contact them and get information of how to solve a particular problem. So if that's something you're interested in, when you're asking this question about a role, what role we will play in your business afterwards, and you're asking it in terms of you need help, that's kind of the help that we can provide for you, is that mentorship. So that is, hopefully clarifies that question. Okay. Joseph asked again, looks like he's looking for clarification. In case the funds are given as a prize to a winner, is not enough for the company's startup capital to just support in any way acquiring more funds. Well, we can provide you with, unfortunately, we're limited with the amount of funds we can give away. We don't have, I'd love to give as much money away as possible, but we're limited to the amount of money we can give away. That doesn't mean that we won't start connecting you with other funding opportunities. So some of the things we've done in the past is connected finalists with other competitions where they could win prizes. We've also connected them with other people who might be able to help their help their business along. So that's something to keep in mind. And another great aspect of having the finals at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit is that you'll be able to network with a lot of other people, including investors. And this is kind of why we have the pitch competition, is that during the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, there'll be investors walking around, and they might be interested in hearing some of the pitches that is your idea, and then come up to you and talk to you afterwards about how they might invest. I mean, I have stories from past finalists who have received funding and who have excelled and have made it onto competitions where they get additional funding. So we're here to help you. Unfortunately, the prize amount is limited to a certain amount, so just keep that in mind. All right. How many semifinalists will be chosen from all the applications? So what we say is that roughly 100 semifinalists will be chosen, or actually I should say up to 100 semifinalists will be chosen. It all depends upon how the experts review and like what they've said, and also how many applications we get in. But if you look onto the program announcement, we say roughly or up to 100 semifinalists will make it onto the final, or will make it. Up to 100 applicants will make it onto the semifinals. So just to give you an idea. Okay. All right. Yes, I was just reminded it's been 1 hour and it's now 11 o'clock, so I should really be getting back to answering your emails and promoting the competition, making sure we can get other people like you who have attended this webinar to apply. So I'm going to sign off for now, and if you have any questions about what was discussed today or any questions about the competition, feel free, techguy@justnetwork.org. Please send me an email. I am going to be starting to answer them once I get off this. And I hope you have a good day. Again, I'll repeat again. The deadline has been extended to January 22nd. I know it says the 15th, but it's been because of the new year, and we wanted to make sure that people had enough time. We're moving the deadline to the 22nd to give you all some more time to apply. Again, if you're just catching this at the end and you missed the beginning portion of this, it'll be available on YouTube, and it's recorded for you to watch at any time in the future. All right, have a good day, and I hope you have a happy new year, and we'll looking forward to seeing all your applications. Thanks, bye.